A Boeing 747 was fully ready for takeoff on the runway. Through thick fog, the pilot raised the thrust levers and switched on the headlights. The aircraft had now crossed takeoff speed, a speed from which turning back is almost impossible. But at that exact moment, amidst the fog, a shadow began to appear. It was another Boeing 747, just a few meters away on the same runway, moving in the opposite direction. What happened next is almost beyond imagination. The question is, how did it come to this? What was the air traffic controller doing? And what tiny mistake set the stage for one of the most dangerous accidents in aviation history? This tragic story unfolds in Spain's Canary Islands, known today as the Tenerife Airport Disaster. Welcome back to English TV's videos. Narrator. The story begins a day before the accident on March 26, 1977, when Pan Am Flight 1736, a Boeing 747 jumbo jet, took off from Los Angeles Airport. It was heading to New York to cut passengers, with its final destination being the city of Las Palmas in the Canary Islands. This was a chartered flight, fully booked, mostly with older passengers planning to enjoy a cruise in Las Palmas. Las Palmas is the capital of the Canary Islands, located about 100 kilometers from the coast of Morocco, and is the southernmost Spain. It is famous worldwide for its tropical climate. But in 1977, behind the scenic beauty of the Canary Islands, political tensions were rising. A group called MPAC was demanding independence for the Canary Islands from Spain, and often resorted to violence to further their cause. It was one such violent event that set the stage for this dangerous accident. Narrator. Pan Am Flight 1736 picked up passengers from JFK International Airport in New York and headed towards Las Palmas. The cabin crew included Captain Victor Grubbs, 56 years old, First Officer Robert Bragg, 39, Flight Engineer George Van, 46, 13 flight attendants, 380 passengers. These were all the details of Pan Am Flight 1736 cruising high above the Atlantic Ocean. Now let's turn to the other aircraft involved in the accident. At Amsterdam Airport in the Netherlands, KLM Flight 4805 was preparing for departure. It was also a Boeing 747 bound for Las Palmas. The cockpit crew included Captain Jacob, 50, First Officer Klaas, 42, Flight Engineer Willem, 48. There were 11 flight attendants and 235 passengers on board. KLM Flight 4805 took off from Amsterdam after boarding. Both aircraft were now en route to Las Palmas Airport in the Canary Islands. Meanwhile, at Las Palmas Airport, two men walked toward the terminal building, left a bag outside a flower shop, and disappeared. The bag contained a bomb with a countdown timer. Exactly at 1 p.m., a phone call was received at Las Palmas Airport's reception. The caller identified themselves as part of the MPA-IAC group, the same group mentioned earlier, and warned that a bomb would explode at Las Palmas Airport within the next 15 minutes. The airport staff immediately evacuated the terminal, and the crowd panicked when, after 15 minutes, a loud explosion occurred. Part of the terminal building's roof collapsed due to the blast. Following this, all airport operations at Las Palmas were suspended, flights were cancelled, and incoming flights were diverted. Narrate soon, KLM Flight 4805 from Amsterdam was approaching Las Palmas. Air traffic control informed them about the explosion and instructed the flight to land at Tenerife Airport, 110 kilometers away. After a 25-minute flight, KLM's captain touched down on Tenerife Airport's runway 30 at 1:38 p.m. At the same time, Pan Am Flight 1736, arriving from New York, was also diverted to Tenerife Airport. By now, most flights were being redirected to Tenerife, as it was the nearest airport. As a result, Tenerife Airport began experiencing significant congestion. It is a small airport in a hilly area, very close to the Atlantic Ocean, with an elevation of about 2,000 feet. Surrounded by high mountains, the humid Atlantic winds hit the peaks, cool rapidly and form clouds, a common and sudden occurrence. When Pan Am and KLM flights landed at Tenerife, visibility was initially good, but soon fog began to reduce it. Visibility fluctuated, sometimes as low as 300 meters, sometimes as clear as 2 kilometers. It was uncertain how long both flights would remain at the airport. Passengers were disembarked to freshen up after the long journey. Meanwhile, KLM Flight 4005, planning to return to Amsterdam, decided to refuel its tanks to save time in case Las Palmas Airport reopened. As refueling began, news arrived that Las Palmas was reopening and passengers were reboarded. However, KLM's refueling blocked the taxiway. Tenerife is a small airport with a single runway, one taxiway and one apron, as seen in the animation. Congestion was unusual, especially with jumbo jets. Pan Am could not taxi to the runway because KLM's refueling blocked the way. They were instructed to wait near the terminal until refueling was completed. By 4:45 p.m, KLM had finished refueling and prepared to move. However, the apron was crowded with other planes blocking the taxiway. To reach the east end of the runway, the controller instructed KLM to taxi along the runway, take a 180-degree turn at the extreme east end and prepare for takeoff. As KLM 485 started taxiing, the controller instructed Pan Am to follow KLM on the runway and then take the C3 exit onto the taxiway, as KLM would be taking off from that runway. Visibility was low and worsening by the minute. Narrator: KLM 4805 taxied across the runway, reached the east end, made the 180-degree turn and lined up for takeoff. Pan Am pilots also began taxiing, but due to the fog, they saw the C1 and C2 exits, but missed C3, which led back to the apron. Tenerife Airport also lacked adequate runway signage. Exit signs were missing. As Pan Am crossed C2, KLM 485's captain requested takeoff clearance. This marked the beginning of a chain of confusion. Both planes were invisible to the tower due to the fog, and the airport had no radar. The tower started giving KLM instructions for their route after takeoff, but never issued takeoff clearance. KLM misinterpreted this as clearance and replied, "We are at takeoff." Whether they said, "We are at takeoff" or "We are taking off" is unclear. The tower responded, "Okay," and then seconds later added, "Stand by for takeoff, I will call you." This crucial message, clearly instructing them not to take off yet, never reached KLM because Pan Am pilots near C3 were also transmitting messages saying, "We are still down the runway." Both messages were transmitted simultaneously, causing distortion in KLM's cockpit. Pan Am had unknowingly crossed C3. The tower had instructed them to report after exiting, which they acknowledged. Meanwhile, KLM's captain had already raised the thrust levers, believing clearance had been granted. KLM's flight engineer heard the tower's message to Pan Am and informed the captain that Pan Am was still on the runway. However, the captain possibly misheard due to noise and replied, "Oh yes," continuing with takeoff. Visibility was only 300 meters. Suddenly, Pan Am pilots saw headlights through the fog. Initially thinking KLM had stopped, they soon realized it was rapidly approaching. They tried to turn the plane, but it was too late. KLM's right engine struck Pan Am's first-class section, tearing it apart. The landing gear collapsed and the plane crashed 150 meters along the runway, bursting into flames fueled by a full tank. All 248 passengers in the impacted section perished instantly. Some economy-class passengers managed to escape through roof openings, even jumping 20 feet to safety. Out of 396 passengers on Pan Am, only 61 survived. The fog delayed tower awareness and rescue vehicles moved slowly. In total, 583 lives were lost in an instant. Investigators later reviewed the cockpit voice recorders, revealing all the details you've just seen. Investigators concluded that a chain of events led to the accident. First, the bomb blast at Las Palmas. Then, KLM blocking the taxiway while refueling at Tenerife. Fog reducing visibility, and Pan Am missing the C3 exit. Responsibility was placed on KLM Flight 4805's crew for taking off without permission, even though the flight engineer had attempted to stop them seconds earlier. The Tenerife disaster served as a wake-up call for the aviation industry. Call sign procedures were revised, airport radar became mandatory, and holding points and runway indicators were made compulsory. Today, Tenerife has two airports, the northern airport where the accident occurred and a new southern airport at a lower elevation designed to minimize visibility issues. We hope you enjoyed this English TV video. Please like and share, and thank you for your love and support. See you in the next amazing video.